And now we can get started. So, Stephen, what's up? What are we doing?
How we doing today?
Doing good.
Good, good. So I brought some people with us today.
Awesome.
Um, and I don't know if Joanna kind of gave her background a little bit.
Mhm.
She's a Columbia trained nutritionist, and now she works at Vanderbilt University. So be just a good contact person when it comes to questions, especially for what we've been talking about all these weeks, right? The
Right.
do's, the don'ts, what works, what doesn't work. Um, and it's just a valuable resource. It really is because um, the people, as you all know, people don't want to hear it from me too much, right? They want to know they want a female like I don't know, it's not a safe space. It's just you're to be able to share more and understand it, especially everything that everybody's gone through, right? Every one of you here that is on a GLP-1 has had that experience. Be like, yeah, I remember eating that, and I threw it up within a matter of minutes, and I knew never. I'm not doing that again.
Right.
Not doing that again. Lesson learned on that one. So it's there's it's again it's growing a community, a network of people that you feel safe around and sharing and things like that. And I know Kate. I spoke to Katie yesterday. Katie's doing fantastic.
Yes.
Really perfect perfect weight loss, Katie, as you are probably listening in.
Yeah, she listens from work, so she listens and but yeah, and she's reaching, close to her goal, correct? I think.
She's
Yes.
getting there. We we had tinkered with the dose slightly. She's at 50 units of the tirzepatide, and I know sometimes things can get frustrating when you see the scale not going in what you want it to see it in. But that's what you want and what is good is sometimes are a very different thing.
That's why I always talk about managing expectations. You know, that if you're on it and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing while you're on it, then you're going to lose the amount of weight you're supposed to lose. And you just have to kind of let it go that way instead of like, I've got 23 days that I've got to lose 20 pounds in. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's all it's going to do is cause stress, frustration, and cause you to actually hold on to weight because now you're dealing with cortisol and all kinds of stuff. So just let it go.
100%. Well said, because cortisol kind of is that double-edged sword on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, not to mention, excuse me, that when it comes to this weight loss, we're just using your numbers, Katie. So sorry, Kathy. Is uh 1227 175. 1 week, yep. 3 5 172, and as of yesterday 170. So 5 pounds in 3 weeks is kind of like a sweet spot of weight loss.
Yep.
You don't want more than that, and less than that sometimes can get frustrating, but uh, it's good to see that.
Nice and steady.
Overall, it's nice and steady is absolutely right. The other thing that we what we have to be, I want to talk to the group about, especially the Facebook group and everybody else that will see this, is at first when we started this group, I was trying to not be as hard lined as Dr. Agan was, and I kind of was butting heads a little bit, being like, "Hey, man, like, chill out, let's let this go." But after a few weeks, there's a lot of validity to it, and I'm here to make sure that when you really start doing these things, that you do it food diary, because
Yeah.
is if you don't, numbers don't lie, right?
Right.
And we're here to help you, and we're here to really rein you in with the exercise and nutrition. And sometimes it's a little invasive. It is invasive to ask you for these things and be like, oh no, don't do that, do this. I had a call with somebody in the group that refused to do dietary recall for weeks, did not lose a pound. And then when we
Yep.
finally got to it, you're like, do you see why we needed this dietary recall? why you can't eat that every night because it makes you feel good, then
Yeah.
the next day you're upset because you didn't lose the weight. No, 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 that's not okay. So it just sometimes I was just thinking about this on the walk right now we hold you accountable not to shame you. We hold you accountable so you get to the goals you want to get to, and it's tough. It's we on the clinician side, it's tough sometimes being like, what are you really doing? We're not here to try to offend you. We're trying to we're trying to help you. So don't ever take offense to that because I know that especially with the upcoming weeks in the group, kind of reassessing and reassuring that we're hitting our goals, be a little bit more a little hard lined on these things to be like, where did you go right and where did you go wrong? And with that, April, I wanted it. April's my cousin, ironically enough, and
She said,
um, I would like you kind of take the floor. There's a lot of people that will hear this on a group, and it's been kind of really beneficial. As everyone that's been on here on this has kind of shared their success story, and people want to hear that more than they want to hear me talk.
well, and
It's that combination. It's the combination of both.
for my
Yeah.
Facebook group, I don't want my Facebook group to just be another, you know, well, most of the semaglutide Facebook groups that I've joined, it's, offshore stuff being sold is really all it is. Oh, I got my stuff from so and so and I'm so happy. And that's all you see.
Yeah.
You don't see anything. I want my education, and this will sift out the people that just want to go buy offshore for super cheap and do it their own way and eat pizza and whatever they want. And I want to sift out and want this to be a group where people, you're paying a lot of money for this. So let's do it right. So you're not stretching it out. You're getting your results. You're feeling good, instead of having the nasty side effects because you're eating pizza, and McDonald's and things. It's just a short span of time if you commit yourself, and let's just do it right and make your money worth it and your time and your effort, everything worth it by doing it right. And so, yes, I would love to hear April's experience and share it with our group to share success stories.
Yeah. So to your point on people getting medication from just any random place, I don't think I would have done that. I'm doing this because obviously Stephen is my cousin and I trust him and I know that he knows what he's doing. And of course it started off by, Stephen came for a visit and we had a good talk one night and I said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. And honestly, I wouldn't have really had many expectations. I wanted to see what would happen, not to put that pressure on myself. Just a little background. I am in my early 40s. I have two young kids, ages 10 and 7. I work full time from home. A lot has changed over COVID, so I don't move as much as I used to. And, as I get older and I have a lot of stress from running a 24/7, 365 operation and 30 adult children that work for me, cortisol is a real thing, right? I'm very stressed out a lot. I was still taking the time to try to watch what I was eating and to work out in my lunch hour. I have a full gym set up downstairs, but I continued to gain weight, but all of a sudden it started to happen faster than it had before. And so it was clear to me that I needed some help. And, it's expensive, but I can afford to do what I think is right for my health. And that's why I decided to do what I'm doing. So I started, my first day was October 10th and I was at 158. And now today I am down 38 pounds.
Wow.
So my goal was 125 and I'm still going, whether I'm trying to or not. So, I did start off, at I think we started off at 10 and then went to 15 and then 20, right, Stephen?
Mm-hmm. We started you again with the group too. A lot of the dosing for the tirzepatide, we start off even lower than what the first recommended dose is, right? Because that's the right thing to do with these medications. across the board, but that's just the way the studies did it. But we started it off nice. And actually, what are you on right now? You on 30?
I took 20 last week. I think I'm going to take 25 this week.
Mm.
Well, and I had someone in my group contact me. Actually, she wasn't in my group and now she is, but she contacted me and, and we were talking pricing and stuff. First, she's like, she's getting her semaglutide for 300 and something a month. And she's in Kansas, so she can't, it doesn't, tirzepatide doesn't ship there. Or no, semaglutide, I can't remember. Anyway, I think it was semaglutide doesn't ship there. And so I said, does tirzepatide? And then she's like, oh, she saw the price. And I'm like, but you have to understand that we meet with you individually. We line it out for you individually. And usually it's at a lesser dose than is on the vial. So it's going to last longer than what it says it's going to last. And so I'm trying to get her to have a call with you, Stephen, because
Absolutely.
that's something I want the group to know is, just because it says use this dose and it's only going to last 2 months, you're actually going to do, a lower dose. So it's going to last a few more months and not have, and you'll have more. So the money you're spending stretches out and is,
It really does. It don't think 12, it don't think 10 weeks. I put it at about 16. It's almost at like 3 to 4 months that you're going to get for the $700.
Good.
And that's where people are like, oh,
yep.
well, it's different. Well, I'm like, yeah, that's why we're having this conversation. So you could kind of hear what the real shtick is. But yeah, and the thing is just like, in all reality, in Joe would contest. Well, it'd be April and you and Kayla. The New Year, New You program was designed on our conversations before it even started.
That's awesome.
Like I based this whole thing on providing the material of being like, hey, you got to make sure you're working out more. You got to make sure you're changing your diet no matter what. You got to make sure you're supplementing right. And more importantly, get ready when you eat certain things not to feel good because you are not.
Yeah.
And
it takes long to experience that for sure. But like I'm following the program the way that Steven said, right? Like he's looked at, the protein shake that I get to make sure that, it's loaded in the vitamins that I need. And that's the first thing that goes into my body every day. And I'm not eating until much later in the day that I used to. I'm trying to work out, then have a shake. But if I'm hungry before, and I know I'm going to struggle with that energy level, I'm going to have my shake before because I'm listening to what my body's telling me now that I need versus what my head thought I wanted.
Yeah.
So it's, but the workouts are extremely important, not only for the weight loss, but for your stress too, because working out is very good for stress levels. And I was adding walks with the dogs and stuff. So being more active than I was before. And that's why this has worked for me.
And retaining your lean muscle mass. I mean, that's huge.
The best part is I knew that there was muscle hiding under all my fat somewhere because I was working hard to put it there. I just couldn't see it.
There you go.
So now I can really see it. My arms are, almost like no fat on them. I've lost my entire butt. There's no fat on my stomach. Like everything has just disappeared, but I'm continuing to use my biometric scale.
Yes.
So I can see how much things have changed. I've dropped 2 metabolic years off of my age.
Nice.
And, I'm at athlete level body fat and like my muscle content is great. So like, I want to be very careful about that. We even had conversations of, taking something else to maybe help my muscle growth, but I don't know that I'm there yet because I just got COVID and I wasn't expecting it. I was on this track full steam ahead to do what's next for me. And I was like, then my body wouldn't allow me to, and I had to give it a break, but I'm getting back to normal now that I've been, a couple days out of the COVID fun. So
yeah, I think you were sick too, Stephen, a while ago, and I was sick, and we all kind of we all got
hammered.
That's right,
by
you too, Ashley. Yep, it all kind of went through us all. Yeah, that was fun. All on different sides of the country.
It sets you back.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad you said that, April, at that time, because as everybody's been hearing this, as our first group is winding down, we're going to continue going on with it. But if you keep looking at all of the literature that's coming out with the GLP-1s, look, we know that by taking, they just approved it now to prevent cardiovascular disease in people that have diabetes, which is the perfect. Having diabetes is the best way to get heart disease, right? It's, if not, start chain smoking cigars and eat McDonald's, right? It's up there in the best ways, and now they're approving it to prevent it with diabetic populations. We know what it does with cirrhosis of the liver, the kidney function, Alzheimer's, dementia, and colon cancer. So we know that this stuff's not going anywhere. What keeps in the group multiple times, and Ashley's going to love this, is how many people are asking, what's next, right? And that's the transition to where, if you look at a lot of even our competition, right, which is a healthy thing to talk about, is looking at what are people doing now that they've hit their goal weight? How do they not go back, right? And that's where that's a real nasty side effect. Again, is all of here is that if you go back, if you don't initiate the change that got you to like where you were really eating, having a healthy relationship with food, knowing that if you eat this, you're gonna feel bad, the whole gambit, right? Because all of us are wildly different, and all of us can make wildly different excuses for our behavior. But if we really get that in line, the next thing is they're now in April. Kayla is getting on board with one thing that we talked about too, Lanita, in the group is something like IGF-LR3, which is to help build muscle. Now, this is not something like April and Kayla, I was just talking about this with Kayla last night, is by taking this for 6 weeks, what you're gonna do is you're gonna put on 3 to 4 pounds of muscle, and you'll take down another pound or two of body fat, and then you stop that. You don't need to keep doing that, right? But it's one of those things that's another catalyst that keeps you going as you keep hitting these goals. And there's a whole host of these peptides, which we started to discuss about last week, that really help what we're looking to do. And what I mean by help, what I mean is maintain where we hit our goal, right? It's just that's just the world we live in right now, in our environment. I mean, you see, and as everybody knows too, for those of you that are on LinkedIn and now on the Facebook and in the Facebook affiliate group, which you can see, I'm providing a lot of information. People are really getting up in arms with our food source. People are really getting on this, as we should.
Yeah.
The thing is we've known about, there's no true solution to it unless we make strawberries $1 for a pound, right? That's never going to happen in our lifetime. And get rid of all the other foods. But there are other things out there, April, and that we'll definitely get down that conversation as the summer rolls around, and kind of what's next, what's the next thing. And to the group is, we're going to start unveiling that here shortly about what are the next things.
Awesome.
One thing I just want to say is that now that I've dialed back and went to 15 and now 10, because I'm concerned that I'll go too low on my weight, my body's going to do what it wants to do, but I'm hungrier earlier in the day, but the quantity of the food that my body wants to intake is still the same as it was when I started this medication. And everybody knows you can't handle that much food anymore, right? Like, and the other thing is the thought of sugar still repulses me. Like, I used to go to Starbucks on a regular basis for a nice, sweet cold foam, whatever. And the thought of it makes me want to throw up. So, like, there's definitely things in my brain that are going to continue to think a certain way, and I don't see ever going back to where I was before. I may eat some of the same foods, like we were talking about tacos, because I had a stress meal today. But
tacos are never going anywhere.
I ate 2 tacos and a little bit of guacamole versus 3 tacos, beans, rice, and guac and chips. I mean, come on now. It was a little ridiculous now that I think back on it, that was a happy meal before.
Well, and you're proof right here. You know, our bodies require so much less food than we actually put in them.
Exactly the point.
And, you know, and if we actually really learn to listen to our bodies, eat when we're hungry, stop when we're satisfied. And, you know, I went out of town with a girlfriend for the past 2 days, to the beach, to Santa Cruz. And, you know, we learned, this is the first time traveling together, but we learned that we need to just split everything because we both eat such small portions that we had all this extra food that we didn't, you know, didn't end up eating because, you know, we have a bowl of soup and each of us, you know, just instinctively only ate about half of it. And, you know, the other half is like, well, it's there, you know? So yeah, our bodies require so much less to do what they need to do.
Mhm.
It's a very strange thing about how GLP-1s stop again, and I think Joe would. This is a kind of definitely up your alley. Is they slow gastroparesis, right? It slows the stomach from emptying, and this is where a lot of the real bad side effects come in, right? And again, some of the writing on the wall is seeing some dietary recalls from Columbia University. Again, I think I've talked about this is people, the people that had the worst gastroparesis, right? The worst ones, when they did the dietary recall, you're like, you ate what? Like, how could you do that? Like, what are you even thinking? How could anybody sit and eat two large pizzas by themselves? I mean, I would get sick like that without the GLP-1, but nevertheless. So, but yeah, that slowing has really taught us like you're not hungry. You don't need to eat. And here's a fun example. I had when I first started, I had like a breakfast meeting with people, and it was like 7 in the morning, and I saw somebody getting pancakes and bacon, and I was like, dude, if you don't put you need to get that off the table, or I'm gonna throw up. Like, what the hell is wrong with you, right? Like, like, and like, if you're on a GLP-1 now, the next day, and somebody put bacon and pancakes and syrup in front of you, and you ate it, you'd get sick, right? You would get sick. That's just the way that's gonna work. So it is very, very interesting, especially with all the literature coming out on how it changes our relationship and how we see food and what we need, what we don't need.
That's what I find fascinating is it actually, you know, it's in your brain. That's like you said, you don't, sugar repulses you. And that's, you know, that's in your brain where you're, and so that's interesting how that works.
Yeah. But the first step is breaking up with food in your brain, because that's the best step that you could make, and the most important food that step that you're making is the relationship with food. You have to be ready for it to change. I've been trying to get my husband to do this too. He is the king of skeptic people, and he's seen my results, and he understands that this is the future of medicine. It's not just hearing it from us too, Stephen, but he heard somebody making a speech about this being the future and why, right? And then all of a sudden he was interested again, but he's not ready to break up with food. I was like, I don't think you understand that, you know, everything changes and this medication will do that for you, but you have to be ready to welcome that moment. And he's not. Like, he's working out more now, but like he's not making the change that will make a significant impact for him. So
not ready to make the sacrifice, which
right.
is
Yeah.
that's given to you with the shot the first time, right? That's the weird thing about it. It's like right. Actually, I think we've talked about this too. The day after, when you first start, the day after, like you like look around, you're like, please don't make me eat.
I just don't want anything.
You're making me sick to my stomach looking at you. Like, you see what I've noticed, and I've talked to this about other people in the group, is seeing what other people eat. Now that's a real conundrum. Seeing people like I got nauseous seeing people like literally like I saw somebody like eating like a wrap that had French fries stuck in it and like running down the street, and I'm like, why are you? What is wrong with you? Talk to me.
That's my
But again,
husband. My husband, I know the size of a stomach, you know the size of a stomach, and I watch him eat so much. And where does that food go? I can't,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine where it all goes in his body. And he's a little man and he's diabetic, and
Mm.
he pretty much only eats one meal. I mean, he has a shake for breakfast. He takes a tuna sandwich for lunch and some pickles. And then he eats what I cook at home for dinner, but his quantities are like
He stuffs it in.
huge. And I just sit there, or if we go out for a meal and I sit across from him, I was like, is it going down your leg? Where is it all going? Because a human stomach cannot fit all of that mass in it. It's gross.
You know, the other thing that I kind of despise at this point is alcohol.
Yeah, I was about to say, even I'm a big drinker, and it's continue to get cut more and more. And even I was out with friends, and they're like, "Are you all right?" And I'm like, "I gotta go, dude." Like I'm either gonna throw up or I'm gonna fall asleep. I can't do this.
Does it just not make you feel good, or what happens when, does it?
Well, any alcohol that has a sugar content, that explains it right there. Like wine, right? Like I never used to be a wine drinker. I started with COVID because it was the only thing that I felt wouldn't be weird for me to drink every day at home under my stress levels with children in the house. Like a dirty martini is not a daily event, right? But so now, like the thought of wine, like, my brain is still like, let's do this every once in a while. And then my stomach is like, why did you put sugar in here? We're not jiving with this. Let's go throw it up, because that seems like that's a better idea at this point.
Interesting.
Maybe I'll have a dirty martini when I go out to dinner, but like, it's like a meal for me. There's an olive in there.
It's back to a social thing. Like when I go out to eat too, having a martini it's a slow process, right? You're like, I'm going to enjoy this, because if I suck this down, I'm probably gonna get sick at dinner. Sitting at a steakhouse, you're literally going to spend $400 to throw it up. That's oh, that's
So
even worse than going grocery shopping, putting all the food in the fridge and just letting it rot, right? Like it's just like, no, you're not doing that.
Interesting.
Stephen has experienced this week with me. We have a place where we like to go for these private wine dinners, and it's 6 courses, food and wine, and it is a ridiculous amount of food and alcohol. And then, we did this with Stephen, and we even ordered more alcohol on top of whatever was included in this dinner. And it was just like, if I thought about doing that now, I would make it past the appetizer course and get sick. Like, there's no way I can ever see myself having one of my favorite dinners like that again.
Well, it goes back to changing our mind to food as fuel.
It is exactly the point.
Fuel. You need it to carry out your daily functions, and occasionally food can be fun. Like this week with the past couple of days in Santa Cruz with my friend, we had fun. We, ate stuff that we don't normally eat, but on a regular basis, food is fuel. I get up and I fuel my body to get through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And
going out to dinner's become like a special thing again, right? That's kind of the nuance of it too, where we used to celebrate that like every day, but like business meeting dinners and farm dinner, like it now, like, again, like to your point, April, looking back is like, wow, that's madness. Why would we think of doing that?
Where did I put it?
The money and then the amount of food. Yeah, it's just it's unnecessary.
So now it's like, if I go to dinner, it's maybe a martini if I'm feeling it for the night, maybe some oysters and like a salad. And then my husband sits there and looks at me. He's like, you are no fun anymore. And I was like, you have your own fun, because I'm over here just putting what I need to function in my body, and that's it. Like he doesn't understand how I think about food as fuel, and that's all. And I've always been able to do that, but I needed this push. Now that I'm having a harder time, right?
That's my husband too. I'm not as fun to go out with, and a lot of the restaurants that he'd prefer, like off the table for me, he's like, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to eat that stuff. But and so yeah, I'm not as much fun either. Sucks.
It is what it is, though. People do not need us to be fun to have dinner with them, and like, just our company should be enough. Don't worry about what I'm eating. Who cares? You eat whatever you want to eat if that's your thing. But
Yep.
But I think it's more like they're sitting across the table feeling guilty that they're still doing things the way that they do it while they're watching you have the discipline to not do what they're doing.
And
That's what I really think it's about.
and they want company in that, in what they're doing.
Yeah, the misery loves company like that. I've been at dinners too where like they've ordered like multiple things and I'm like, no, I'm good, thank you. They're like dessert. And I'm like, good God, no, man. Like I'm stuffed. And then you get ostracized for being different because you're not partaking in this gluttony. Now, every once in a while, there's times where you go like, I need to eat a lot. Like I woke up one morning at like 4 a.m. and my stomach was growling so loud. I think like it woke up the cat. He's like, even I'm like, he's like, it's a little early for food, don't you think, dude? And I wolfed down an entire thing of Greek yogurt with honey. So I took down 50 grams of protein and 300 calories in a matter of seconds, right? So there's an ebb and flow to it for sure. But overall, the relationship with food, in what it is too, and is Ashley knows, and as well as Kay there too, is when you start seeing the results in the mirror, you don't want to go back to the way you looked, and that is a hard line thing. You're like, nope, not doing that again.
Yeah.
And that's a real that's like a real aha moment in the mirror when you're looking at yourself differently, especially for between think about you, April, and your Kayla's down 30. How much are you down right now, Ashley?
3. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Almost 30.
Yeah. So collectively, the three of you are like at 100 pounds off.
Yeah.
And to think about this is where the real trip comes into it. Go get 4 25-pound dumbbells and know that that's come off of 3 of you. That's like that's a lot.
That's what I did. I would take a dumbbell and hand it to my husband and say, "That's how much weight I've lost."
Wow.
We'll get him eventually. Hopefully, he's gonna.
Oh, we're going to get him. It's just you've met him, and he is the most stubborn person on this planet. So.
Oh,
I gotta jump off, guys.
Okay, thank you so
All right,
much,
thank
Ashley.
you.
Ashley.
Bye.
Bye, Ash. I'll text you later.
We got
One thing that I
tomorrow.
think is important to mention from my perspective is that I never felt like I was fat. I watched my family go down the wrong path, and I knew that eventually that's where I was going to end up. And to all the people that are hating on us, people that are using it for a cosmetic reason,
Right.
like in the beginning, I felt guilty saying what I was doing because number one, I was privileged enough to afford it. But number two, the fact that I was doing it and people would look at me and say, but you're not obese.
right.
And, shame on you for doing this. And I'm totally over that. And I could care less what people think now, because what I'm doing is taking control over the possible future of my health and going down the same unhealthy path that my mom and my sister are on. I just saw it going nowhere good. And they're always making excuses as to why they can't have this diet and that diet. And it's so frustrating because I just want to like shake them and like just stop with the excuses. There's something out here that is going to help stop you from becoming diabetic, having heart disease, and all these things. And so that's my reason. Like people don't need to walk down the street and know my reason and know my family's health or mine, right? I don't care what you think anymore. I don't care. It's working and I'm healthy. I feel better than I ever have, except for when I think about sugar.
That's a good thing because it's just toxic. That's like when I used to work in an office and they would bring a box of donuts and set them right on the desk for everyone to eat. And I just had to start looking at it as that is a pink box of toxins. And I do love my donuts once or twice a year, not every Friday, just because it's Friday. And it's just a box of sugar's just toxic. So, that it makes you repulsed by sugar is awesome.
Yeah. And that's what you would want in life is like once your brain says, I don't want that. And then your brain tells your stomach, don't we feel gross even thinking about that? That's what changes everything.
Yep. Agreed.
That's the connection to that, the addiction that they're looking at this too. Yeah, it's in the making, right? I've been trying to acquire some white papers on what's been like already been said within these studies, but they're pretty tight-lipped about it. But what we do know is that it does play a role in how our body, it's like the reward serotonin, right? We eat, we get addicted to it, right? And we get duped into that very young at age. And that's the kicker, right? Oh, have that donut, go have that little bit of ice cream, right? It's like, it's not your birthday. Put
Right.
that piece of cake down. Put it down. That's no, not for you.
Well, I wondered when you said that, they're finding that people are drinking less alcohol. That tells me that it's dealing in the addiction area of our brain of, being able to not, that it breaks that addiction to
That's in a
sugar
lot of
and
the
alcohol, unhealthy things.
there's a lot you could for those of you inclined, we could definitely bring this up, but you do have to know where to dig. It's not easy to find. But you could find to you, Joe, is you could find out like recalls of what these people are, what they've had on when they're taking because they make you do a dietary recall on some of these things, and it's kind of a noted side effect, right? They
Yep.
weren't looking at that, but they were like, one thing I have to tell you. Well, I wasn't going to tell you that I drank a 12 pack of beer every day, but I am going to tell you now I'm only having about three. And I think that's important to tell you. It's kind of recalls like that aren't like they weren't investigating that, but people weren't also being forthcoming with it, but they are forthcoming with it when they've noticed the difference that they simply can't drink that much.
Yeah.
And that's a real like, oh, that's interesting now, isn't it?
Or another thing that I'm curious about is I'm a non-smoker, so anybody that smokes kind of irritates me. My husband being my case in point, but if you think about it, the addiction issues are far minimized with this medication, and if you're somebody who tends to smoke more when you're drinking, and your drinking isn't as much as it used to be, and how often it used to be, like if you think about like the chain reaction of all these addictions,
Yeah.
like I'm sure that at some point there's going to be some research that starts to point in that direction, all the things that your body thinks it doesn't need anymore.
Right.
It's pointing its way there already. Think of it like as a compass, right? It's been spun and it's going out there. We know that it's going to have its effect in it. To what extent or what we're going to believe into it right now it's still forthcoming. I mean, each week something else comes out. I mean, there was a 2 or 3 there was like a 3 month period every 2 weeks. It was reduction in cardiovascular disease, reduction in colon cancer, reduction in cirrhosis of the liver. You're like, oh, what's next, right? There's something with macular degeneration too
Interesting.
that came out. Yeah. Well, the
Oh,
thing
my sister needs to hear that, Stephen. She's got that now.
I know. I was
is,
starting to.
My sister does.
oh, you and your mother go shopping for these things, and instead of like anything that could be wrong with them, they just dump it into the cart. They're like,
I
yes.
know. I'm just constantly like, what else can be wrong with you people? And if you just get all the inflammation out of your body, you feel so much better. Oh my God.
This is interesting because my stepfather he's got starting of macular degeneration. He's diabetic, likes his alcohol, and struggles with his weight. I'd have to have a conversation.
All of these things, all like the thing about the macular degeneration and all of the other things that diabetes does is it destroys the microvasculation, right? That's why sometimes you see real diabetics losing their fingers and they take their eyes and their toes.
Yeah.
It's just another thing showing that what we all know is the overreaching problem is, yes, it's what we're eating is poisoning us.
Yep.
And there is, I mean, if it's terrifying, like just, now look, with a little humor, if I ever had to like survive the zombie apocalypse, lock me up in a 7-Eleven because they got everything you need there, right? You could spend a good chunk of time in 7-Eleven, right? I mean, hell, they got baseball bats and like you're set for a year, right? But also just looking at any 7-Eleven, go through it, man, and the stuff in there is absolutely terrifying. And most groceries, like a lot of grocery stores are like again, everybody's heard shop their perimeter, right? But even the perimeter is getting tangled into this, disastrous web.
Well, I
Um,
noticed that they have Dollar Generals everywhere. Dollar
oh,
Generals are everywhere, and you go into them and there's just nothing. It's cheap, but it's all garbage. If you go to try to find any quality type of food in there, I was just shocked.
their icon should be like a zombie pushing a cart into a store
I
because
was amazed. It's like, well, yeah, this is not the prices are good, you know, maybe some yogurt. I might find some plain, I don't even know if I'd find quality plain yogurt in there.
Yeah, but the problem is like food deserts, right? Like you can find something like a Dollar General is cheap and you can get food to eat, but what you're putting in your body is so bad for you, and you're just going to end up down a horrible path with your health in the
And then
long run.
in Santa Cruz, where I just came from, I went into this amazing market, kind of like a Whole Foods, and it's so expensive. And there's, so it's cheap to buy all this garbage, and then to buy quality food, it's super expensive, and it's just sad. It's just
Or
sad.
to be able to get this medication. It's very frustrating to make everything that is healthy for people so far out of the reach of most people in this country. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's designed that way, no matter how you want to cut the cake.
Yeah. Comes down to money.
It's look at the money. Again, you go to a good grocery store, and Joe, you'll know that Citarella. Go shopping at Citarella, and that makes Whole Food looks like a Dollar General, right?
Really?
It makes it look like a Dollar General. You walk out of there for a dinner for 4, you're spending $500 for the food alone. Right now, you're getting the best quality. You're getting this is where they get it's restaurant quality, right? The meat select, all that's going to the restaurants. But here's another thing. I was talking to some of my a fraternity brother of mine in Texas. Now, the people who can't get these medications are the people that are relying on insurance, that are the sickest, that could probably use it the most, are the ones who are not. Even insurance is like, you're too fat, right? In these pocket areas, Mississippi, South Texas,
Louisiana, yeah.
New Mexico, and Louisiana, the
Yeah.
highest obesity, right? Those are the ones that are like, sorry, you're just a little too much.
Not the right demographic. It's like,
Yeah, sorry, too late for you. Thanks. Please try again in the next life. That's just the way. That's just the way it is. A good thing that I guess I could go a little bit, because if not, Ashley would be like texting me, being like, "Stop, stop, stop." The stuff with the FDA. She's always very like very good on keeping me down on that one. There's a new thing on the FDA where you see what they're doing with the supplements now, right? They just got approved by that.
did they?
Yeah, there was a study on berberine where 30 out of 33 were completely used. There's nothing, so they're going to come down on it. But all they're asking for is more. They're asking for a bigger budget, and pretty much a bigger budget and more responsibility. But they're saying they can't stop the manufacturing of these things. So it's like, when you hear that and you see this in this report, you're like, hold on.
You want control.
You're the regulation, right? The federal agency to stop this stuff. You're not going to stop it, but you're going to get more money and more responsibility.
Yeah. Actually, I just started taking berberine because I'm not on a GLP-1, and I figured berberine is a good, because I do most all, natural.
The berberine is good. It's got a lot of different roles in it.
Yeah. So
I was taking that for a while too.
Yeah, that's my option right now instead of the GLP-1. My concern with the GLP-1, we've discussed my different concerns, one, my low blood sugar, and also I already have major gastric issues with, chronic constipation and a slow moving colon. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I want to make that any worse.
Have you tried psyllium powder?
No, actually, fiber causes a
Go
mucus.
ahead, Joe, chime in.
Yeah, fiber causes
Yeah.
a mucus plug. Fiber actually makes it worse for me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I
it
work in
sucks.
GI clinic, so we often see the people who should not get GLP-1s. We get people who already have gastroparesis, and you add in GLP-1 and they will be vomiting in our office. So, there are definitely, it's not indicated for everybody. Not everyone can do it, as much as I think it has a real positive impact. And just to speak to the FDA thing, I think I hate the lack of control the FDA has over the supplement industry. Like it kills me, because I think it's just this giant black hole into which there's without some serious congressional changes, the FDA has no power over the supplement industry. And one thing that does, so I'm really interested in all of this. Forgive me for going on a little bit of a tangent. I'm really interested in everything you guys are talking about.
I've been waiting to hear from you.
Well, Steven said I should just listen. I didn't want to.
No, this is your time now. This is
Yeah.
your time.
So there's a lot of pros and cons of GLP-1s. I think I've, over the course of, since starting to hear about them, as far as not just being used in the diabetic realm, but kind of the across the board spectrum, seeing some really interesting, positive and negative side effects. And, but one thing that really just kind of, in thinking about it recently, I've thought about is if you can't have a really nutrient dense diet with the minimal amount of food that you can get in, because of the cost of the foods and things like that, all the things that you guys have been talking about, relying on supplements to get your vitamins brings in a whole other element of having to rely on these supplement companies, where we find out so often that they don't contain what they're supposed to contain, or they contain something else that they're not supposed to contain, and things like that. So I worry about giving any supplement company more control over our intake in some ways, in the long run, when we look at this in a broader spectrum. I hope that the broadening of GLP-1s in the population, and potentially more people taking vitamins because they kind of need it a little bit to supplement, would maybe push us more towards more regulation in the supplement industry. I think that would be an amazing, amazing thing, because I have to tell people to take vitamins all the time, and I'm always like, good luck.
Well, and I think finding a good supplement now,
Yeah.
the 6 Daily, I'm really pleased with all that's in it. And I'm thankful, there's a couple of things that are missing from the one I was taking, but the one I was taking was $130, or the ones, they were a package of a bunch, there was some for my inflammation, and I think the other was for my brain health or something. There was something, and the omegas. Those are the ones.
The omega,
Right.
You can't encapsulate, you know what, you can't powder and encapsulate omegas. They've tried it, and it is a horrible product.
Yeah.
I went through that years ago when we tried to do that.
But it's true. I mean, there's so much garbage, and especially if you're one that's just going to go pick vitamins off the shelf at a grocery store. I mean, that's just
don't if you're getting it.
What'd you say? Expensive urine. That just gives you expensive urine. Yeah.
So do the research on where you can get those vitamins from in other sources, what's salmon good for, what's spinach good for, and instead of eating the junk that you used to eat, replace it with those good things to have those vitamins you need. I mean, that's probably the best way, right?
The hard thing is
There
that
are
a lot
some
of
things,
go ahead.
there's something that you're not going to get enough of from our diet. Nobody gets enough vitamin D. It's hard to get enough calcium. There are things that, just because of our lifestyle and because of our food industries, it's just hard to get.
Farming practices, our soil is so depleted from the minerals. I mean, there's really only way to get quality minerals is supplementation anymore, because they've just farmed out the minerals from our soil.
So, Stephen, I see more marketing from the website on injectable vitamins. So is that going to be more the future for better absorption of vitamins?
On some of them, absolutely.
B12, glutathione.
Glutathione, all the big ones, yes, because you want to bypass as many, you want to bypass the liver and kidneys if you can, save them. So they are on their way. They are definitely on their way. Micronutrients like the And that's, again, I have to give it to Dr. Brent Again. I was so skeptical when he was talking about these 6 daily. I'm like, oh, come on, here we go again with this. And then I had a long conversation with him because I'm underneath his management for my HRT. And he's like, great, your sex hormone binding globulins, do I take the 6 daily? And I was like, what? And he's like, boron, you need boron. And I almost felt so stupid because I tend to know a lot about these things. And within 72 hours, I felt wildly different because of it. And my SHBG dropped in half, which means my free testosterone went up because it wasn't getting bound, like sex hormone binding globulin, it bound to my free testosterone, taking it out of circulation. So there are really good product lines. I think I just have to say it. I like Thorne. Thorne has got a great product line. Nordic Naturals for fish oil. So there are better ones. But Nordic Natural for the last 10 years it's a solid B plus, right? You know what you're gonna get. You can see where the fish is sourced, all of that stuff.
Important. That's huge, especially with
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones. And then, Joe, I don't know what your thoughts are, but it's a little bit more expensive. It could be designed for women because of vaginal flora and all this other, but I like Dr. Mercola's because it's got 70 billion CFU. So just, I like to talk sometimes at the end of the calls, Joe, in April, people are like, so what do you take? Right. And I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm going to be like, I take Thorne. I like Thorne products. I think they're very good. The Nordic Naturals for the fish oil, and then the Dr. Mercola for the probiotics, kind of are my go-to one. And then I'll let Joe and April take over again. Is one thing that's quite interesting too about the FDA and in the supplements. Did you see that Amazon's getting hit with like $1 billion fine because of the supplements?
I'll bet, because those third-party sellers and stuff, it's really all over the place.
And Amazon's like, this is not our fault. This is not our fault. This is the FDA's job, right?
But they don't have any power to do anything.
No. The other thing is, how does
They're not like falling down the job. They have no recourse to go in and do anything.
No, they don't care. They're like, just pay us. We're gonna screw you coming in and out of the door. Don't worry, just pay us. This is the weird thing too, is how did the FDA shut down medications to certain states? How did that happen?
Well, they have more control over
They're
medication.
federal.
Supplements is a unique category. It's
Yeah.
outside of medication. It's outside of food. Supplements got basically back in the 80s, there was a big changeover that
Utah,
basically
the senator from Utah that made sure that did not happen.
I think it was like Orrin Hatch. So, he had like and he was getting a lot of money from supplement companies, and
they were all based out of Utah. It was out of Utah. I just had a conversation about this with somebody who works for the government in a very different way.
It was actually a really good documentary that PBS did, like probably 20 years ago at this point, on this whole thing of how the FDA kind of lost control over the supplement industry, and how it's fantastic. So if I can find the link, I'll send it along.
Yeah, please send that along, because that would be great to send to people. It's just, the key thing is we have to make sure that we are continuing to learn more about these things as we see certain agencies pull products and give them back, limit medications. Like, how is it that like California and Louisiana were the only states that you couldn't get semaglutide from for a while? Why? And you can't get to any answers of that at all. Why would they ban a medication in 2 states? But they're like, you know what? Go ahead, everybody else, go for it.
California did its own thing. California decided to regulate all injectable.
Yeah, so you couldn't get it outside of state lines, right? You had to get it within, and then there was nothing left because there was none there to begin with, right? It's like,
California is an interesting beast, living here. It's an interesting beast.
I went to school at UC Santa Cruz. That's my
okay.
Right.
Go banana slugs.
I'll be out there at the beginning of May for my 20th reunion. So.
Oh, fun.
Oh.
I enjoyed going there. We didn't do a lot, but we had fun this weekend. Just soaking in the negative ions, man. That's all I needed. Just get some ocean, and soak in those negative ions. It just makes me feel so much better.
Sorry
Love,
for that.
love the beach.
Oh no, this is a as we're just kind of winding this down, it's a great kind of sharing call. Thank you, April, for coming on board and getting everybody to hear your story.
Yes.
And Joe too, you're a great resource. Probably get an email out to you, so there'll be people that are always having questions that even
I'm happy
that
to
I have no idea even how to breach the situation because of it's a whole host of things, especially when it comes to nutrition and how we get things in. What do we really need? What's being told to us? I can't eat this, but I know I need to. You're like it's such a it's a revolving door. You don't know where you're going to end up when you go in it. You don't know where you're going to come out.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm just so thankful because that was, because Stephen and I on in our last call, it's like, I really want to try the GLP ones and I could use to lose some weight. Mine's not anymore how I look in the mirror. Mine is more, I've been dealing with chronic illness for the last 7 years. And so I'm trying to just feel good. I just want to feel good. And, but, I do have really low blood sugar. And I really like because I'm a guinea pig type person. And I'm running this group and I'm trying to help these other people and I've not yet done it myself. But then, my whole thing was I already have I have adhesions and I'm an adhesion producer and I've had major surgeries. And so everything's webbed together down there and I've had bowel blockages from, the scar tissue. And then everything just stops. I mean, I was in a hospital for 2 weeks because my bowel said, we're done. We're not doing anything. And they were it was having to go up my nose, out my, with an NG tube and nightmare. And so, yeah, the thought of messing with my flow and everything going how it's supposed to, I worked so hard to get it happy. The
The BPC 157 would be
that's helping.
Ironically enough, April, Aunt Deb is on it for her ankle, and Victoria took 2 shots of it, and we have another call on Sunday because I didn't really know, and Vicky wasn't very too quick to tell me about all of the severe GI stuff that they have, like severe GI daily. It's one of those things, either I'm not going for 3 days or it's not stopping for 4 days in a row. And I mean, whatever I eat, it comes out in the matter of hours, right? So you think of absorption, all of that. So that's where that BPC 157 comes in, because it was designed by gastroenterologists to up absorption. Gatorade Institute, a few other major places are looking at, when you take these things, here's an interesting one too. This is another thing I was talking to, because again, I actually still consult with a few pro sports. I won't mention names or leagues of stuff like that for confidentiality reasons, but looking at some of the institutes that they're part of, they're looking at BPC 157. And Joe, you like this? I'll get this to you. Net utilization goes up, and one of the side effects is what you eat, not a lot comes out because you're absorbing that much more of it. And people are like, why would you freak out knowing that your gut's healed? You're absorbing more, and then there's less, less defecation. There's less waste. And that's people are reporting, oh, that's a good thing. You're like, yeah, that is a good thing. If what you eat, you don't want all of that coming out. That means you absorb nothing. And that's the thing with blockages, or just no blockage at all. Either you don't go, or you're going the whole time. That's an absorption nightmare.
And
I had to figure that out too, because the higher my dose went, the harder I was struggling more with constipation. But I knew that it would be normal. You're intaking less is going to come out, right? And your body is using what it needs before that happens. But when you can start to feel abdominal pain because you know that there's something in there that needs to come out and you're struggling, that's where I discovered the celiac powder. And also hydration is important, of course. You know, and
Yes.
I drink water all day long, and I still feel parched at the end of the day. So, you know, it's just like,
My
sometimes,
third one of the day.
yeah, you just have to find the stuff that works to help you. The other thing, if I'm really feeling it, is like, just like, I've done like a bowel cleanse, just like one pill, and it empties everything out within a couple hours, and then you're feeling golden. And I may have done that a few times before a weigh-in. I'm not gonna lie. But the good news is that it doesn't come back. It, like, you're just like, you're helping flush everything out of your system that it needed to get out, and you're not going to gain weight back as long as you're still doing everything that you need to do. So, you know, you just have to kind of figure out what does and does not work for you the further in you get, because you're going to learn a lot about your body the more, you know, the further in that you get to taking things like tirzepatide. So
And what I love is this community that we're building is so educational. You know, I don't want these women, you know, and so, and for you ladies that I'm just meeting, I've worked the last 10 years with people on the HCG protocol. And I'm coming from the HCG protocol. I myself was 225 and, you know, did HCG for 2 years and came down, you know, to 140, and actually ended up being too thin in my, you know, I was, you know, being told I was frail and skinny and different things. And my husband didn't like it at all. But, you know, so I come from that. And then, you know, people start asking me, oh, do you have Mounjaro? Do you have Ozempic? Do you have these? And I'm like, I need to find out about this stuff. And so, but I don't want to just be out there going, yeah, I can source it for you, but I want you to be educated, because this is a really different animal. And there's so many out there that, and this is, I hear time and time again in my group, the doctor just writes the prescription, gives me the meds and says, good luck, and walk out the door.
That is exactly what sets us up. That's why we, and
Yes.
that's what April point to in mine is, that's why we created the New Year, New You. And it's just the beginning. Is we knew but we have to provide the education for people with this. It's not, you're going to end up on that merry-go-round, and that is not a good merry-go-round, as we have already seen and heard about. And this is where a lot of the demonization comes out of it, being like, well, yeah, you didn't change anything you did, and that's why you gained the weight back. I mean, it's called a spade. Like, how hard is this? But
and that's it. Ultimately, it's a tool to learn a healthy lifestyle.
mm-hmm.
A tool
so
to learn a healthy lifestyle.
What I was doing, Stephen was talking to me every day.
Hi, Joe.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Stephen was talking to me and Kayla like every day, asking how things were going. And, you know, the further into it we got, different, you know, things that we were experiencing and stuff. But I also kept my daily food and activity log. I was using all of my Apple activity, taking photos every week when I was logging my weight, and I was putting everything into my notepad on my phone. And so as I went on, I could go back and compare everything from day one to, you know, to now.
Right.
You know, and I could share that with Stephen. I was sharing my notepad so he could see everything that I logged. I called it the captain's log.
There you go.
It's important to do that so you can see what works and doesn't work for you. And, you know, like just the progress you start to see. And that's really encouraging to stay on the right path. You know, other people aren't going to notice it as fast as you will.
Right.
If you're looking at photos from each week and you start to see more muscle and less fat, like, you know, you have to use that for your own motivation. Like, you are your number one motivator, you know, like, not other people.
Before and after pictures are so huge, and I struggle, you know, people struggle to take them, that and their measurements. You know, it's like, they just wanted to rely on the scale, and it's like, no, take your pictures, take your measurements, because boy, those sure show you when the scale's not doing what you think it should. You look at the other things and go, oh, okay, there's a huge difference here. And that's, Stephen, I mean, you've just made a huge difference. And I just feel so blessed that, because I originally contacted Telewellness MD a couple years ago to be an affiliate for their HCG that they were selling at the time. And then, of course, that all went away. And then Ashley contacted me and it's like, hey, we're starting an affiliate program. You want to be part of it? And it's like, yes. So, and I just, every day, I just say, it's like, I'm so thankful that this fell into my lap, and it really did, because I wouldn't want to do this any other way, because I'm not just going to put people on a medication and tell them good luck and watch them flounder and fail and get sick and feel disgusting and not lose the weight or lose the muscle mass, and, do it in an unhealthy way and never change their habits to where they're always going to rely on it. And, that's not what we want. Even with HCG, my biggest goal was to work myself out of a job. I don't want to continue to be your coach. I want you to get to your place where you're living a productive, healthy life and you don't need me anymore.
And share that with other people too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
forward.
Yes.
That's it.
Well, April, thank you so much for coming on. I'll be posting this in my Facebook group, or you're welcome to join my Facebook group if you'd like. It's
got to get back on Facebook to do that, but
yeah, and I get that,
I had to do the same thing. I
But I have a love-hate relationship with social media.
All of that, but we keep posting this stuff on our LinkedIn and the Facebook, and it's growing. It's growing, and that's the fun thing to see. And we'll keep doing this. We're going to keep doing this stuff.
And I may not be part of the group officially or an affiliate, but if these conversations and me being part of it can help anybody, I'm happy to participate, just because I want other people to have success like I did.
I so appreciate it. So appreciate it. Hi, Robert. We just had Robert join. Unfortunately, we are at the end of it. We're signing off, but I will be uploading this video. Hopefully Robert's from our group. So I'll be uploading the video here in the next couple of hours to the Facebook group.
And then we will schedule a call for probably for next week as well. And we'll dive more into, we'll come up with a spin-off, maybe survey the group, what's kind of a hot topic item right now. And we'll spin it off from there.
Okay. So I'll put some questions out in the group of what they'd like to, what they'd like to learn.
Yeah, anything and everything. I mean, I've had hour-long calls in groups about protein shakes. What's the best one? What's the worst one? Anything and everything that provides us with proper tools. That's a discussion that is right up our alley.
Well, I gotta jump. Sorry, guys. I gotta go get.
Bye, April. Thanks for joining us.
So
thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Last bit, I can't tell you how much I appreciate the time that you have dedicated to my group, and made yourself available. Like you said, you had a call with Katie. I know you've had a call with several of the members of our group, and that's what I try to let them know. There is no cost. He is, giving his time, and he's helping people get set up individually. Their own doctors aren't doing this for them. And
I'm glad we're at this point, because I want to gain as many people, and anybody who's listening, come and reach out to me now, because the new program, I'm not going to say it's not going to cost a lot, because it's not going to cost a lot, but you're going to see what we've done with everybody learning and everything is what we're going to provide is, imagine you're going to get an Ivy League education for a public school cost.
Yeah.
Right. That's the way we have to work it.
Right.
It's a lot of upfront work. But the education material is going to be something where you read it once and you understand what it means. You go to the medical jargon and there's articles I've had to read 3 or 4 times as a graduate student.
And you're educated, yes.
And I'm like, what is this? I also did this as a professor for 9 years.
That's right.
I would give students articles that I knew were pretty much useless, right? But it was to test them, be like, what did you learn here? And only the smartest one would be like, this is worthless, right? And you're like, hey, next class, let's go.
So have they got it set up that the next program, is it going to still be available with purchasing of the GLP-1s, but if you get it from somewhere else, then you just purchase the
Yeah,
program.
the program. The program will come with our New Year, New You program.
Perfect.
So you have access to that. You'll have access to like some groups. There'll be a higher level up for those because this is what we've learned is
Got it.
imagine having weekly calls and even a training session, right? Again, with me each week.
Yeah.
That's going to be a little bit more, but nevertheless, the information is there. And the thing is too, as everybody's hearing this, it's going to be a tier system because imagine all of our New Year, New You group. It's time to kind of level up, right? So it's going to go from 5th grade to high school.
There you go.
Right? And the information is going to be a lot more dense. It's going to be a lot more reading. It's going to be on the members to read the material so we could have a university type discussion. I will lecture, but then you need to be like questions. I'm going to ask you questions. And then you get through that level, and then you get up to the point where you're a graduate student. I will lecture, but it's going to be you have 3 articles to read a week, and then we're going to lecture about each one of these articles, and then we're going to get into the science of it.
Yeah.
So you'll have a PhD from this in no time on information that is useful and it's teachable and it's tangible and it's relatable and it's current. That's the key.
Yes. So
Nobody wants to know what was good 30 years ago. We need
Right.
to know how we got here, but that needs to go by quickly.
So did I hear you say that in the future, your phone calls will not be included? There'll be a charge for your phone calls? Just
Not as of yet. Not as of yet. There's a lot of business that needs to be done yet, and that it's in the future. But just letting people know, reach out now. That way, I could get you started now quickly.
before you get to a point where you're
Yeah, before I get to a point, it's just because my schedule is pretty much, let's say, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week, 9 months out of the year, and I'm just losing. There's not enough time, and you know. But the thing is it's going to grow and it's going to solidify in the right way, right? So just so we could give a little preview, we know that the New Year, New You, weight loss done right is we're going to be really going into how to maintain that with not relying on a GLP-1. There's other agents like, let's talk about someone that has GI issues, BPC 157, someone that's really like, I got the diet down. I really want to work on my exercise. There we go. We want to do there's everything under the sun that we could utilize as a tool. But what happens is we have to sharpen the tool, and that's what's going to take time and a little bit of effort on each individual's part and within the group. Nevertheless, we are teaching this. We are designing this. We are building this with my academic background as a professor, where it's inclusive, it's educational, and it's interactive is the most important thing.
The community. We are building a beautiful community, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm not going to lecture for an hour. I get bored really quick of that. I want to lecture for about 15, 20 minutes, Q&A.
Still calls.
And then
questions.
Wrap it all back together so everybody knows that there was a whole process to it, and we hit the bullet points. But that's what's going to be built out. And the thing is this is just the GLP-1. We got to tackle a lot of other things. So that's where we're going. This is New Year, New You will happen every January, no matter what. It's just going to get better and better, and the groups are going to grow, and the conversations are going to be more interactive, and it's going to be very, very exciting to be part of.
Yeah, it's turning out beautifully. So, well, thank you again for your time. We have a call tomorrow for.
Oh yeah, big call on peptides. By the way, it's a good one.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
we start off by going over what's the difference between a peptide and a medication. Perfect. And that's where things are going to get real fun real quick, because the FDA shouldn't have control over peptides, but magically they do.
Amazing, I know. And Robert, if you are a customer of Telewellness MD, and I can go and look, then I can invite you into the New Year, New You Facebook group and program, and you can be on tomorrow's call. I know Katie is.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's it.
So
That
faithful,
New
she
Year,
shows
New
up.
You is going to be another great place that I'm going to be continuing to provide quality information with the research behind it.
Nice, nice. All right. Well,
Okay,
thank
you
you.
have a wonderful afternoon. Good call with April and Joe from
Yes.
Vanderbilt University.
Thanks for having them.
We'll
Thanks
get
for
her
inviting
email
them.
out. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. They want to be part of this. And I will see you tomorrow, and we'll talk then.
Sounds great. Have a great day, people. Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.